Hello and welcome! Today we're going to make a little UFO for our cat friends. The things you'll need to make this little cat toy will be some worsted weight yarn in a color for your lights, a color for the ship part or the dome part, and a color for the saucer part of your UFO. Doesn't have to be the colors I'm using, it could be any colors you like. You'll also need a 4mm crochet hook. You'll need some scissors, some yarn needles. You'll need some stuffing. Any kind of stuffing will do. If you'd like catnip in there, you could get some dried catnip, put that in the toy as well. And then if you'd like to follow along with a written pattern, I do have a collection of cat toy patterns available. You can find it on Amazon, you can find it on Kindle, and if you want just a direct link, you can go and look in my bio for that. All right, let's get started. We'll be working on the top part of our little spacecraft first. We're going to start with a magic circle. We're crossing our long end of our yarn over the short, going through the front with our hook, wrapping the yarn around the hook. We're going to pull up a loop, and we're going to do that one more time. And then we're going to single crochet 6 into our magic circle, and we're working in the direction that we've got both of those, with the tail and the circle, getting caught underneath our single crochets here. So for your single crochet, you go in through the front to the back, wrap our yarn, pull it up, wrap, pull through 2, and you're going to keep going until you have 6. Once you have 6, we'll meet back up and we will keep going together. Okay, we have all 6. We're going to take our tail and we're going to pull it. That's going to make that circle come together, and that's why you want to have the tail and your circle underneath your stitches. And then we're going to go through that very first stitch and we're going to slip stitch to join. So we're going to wrap our yarn, pull through that stitch, pull through the one that you finished on, and we're going to chain 1. Round 2, we've got a little increase here. So we're going into our very first stitch. We got a single crochet there, and then we're going back into that same spot to do a second single crochet. We're going to do that all the way around. You'll end up with 12 stitches. You can do that slip stitch again when you're there, and then we can chain 1. And then before we move on to round 3, I'm going to show you one little extra thing. So go ahead, finish this round, and we'll meet up for round 3. Okay, round 2 is finished. Before we move on to round 3, we're going to flip it inside out here. We're going to make sure that tail from our magic circle is as tight as it can be. And we will take a yarn needle. One of my yarn needles got somehow crushed, even though I store it in this little case. I have no idea how it happened. I think maybe one of my dogs is psychic and smushed it with their mind. I don't know. Anyway, so going through there. Once you've got the yarn needle threaded, any little spot on your first round there, we're going to just send that through. I'm just going to make a simple knot. That tail ends up staying on the inside, but having at least one little knot in there will keep it so that it doesn't come undone. So then you don't get any gaps or gapes in that little beginning section. So round 3 is going to be another increase. So I've joined already, I've chained 1, so I'm up a little higher. I'm going to single crochet into the very first stitch. And then that next stitch is going to be that increase, so we're going to single crochet 2 into that spot. So again, for that second one, we're going right back into that same spot. So 1 and 2 in the next stitch. So we're repeating this pattern all the way around. When you get to the end, you'll have 18 stitches. For round 4, it's just a plain single crochet round, so each stitch is going to get a single crochet. You'll end up again with 18 stitches at the end. So go ahead and finish round 3, this increased round, round 4, that plain round, and we'll meet back before we slip stitch round 4. With round 4 done, that is the top of our dome completed. We have not slip stitched to join here yet because we are going to switch colors. Normally, if we were switching colors and we were going to be working with another color for a while, I would say to cut this off, but we're actually going to leave it attached because where we'll pick it up, we'll pick it up again, will be only just a little bit higher from here, so it makes more sense just to leave it on and have less things to tie up. So we're going to take our saucer color and we are just going to tie that to the blue. So we'll make a double knot tying the silver or gray or whatever color you're using onto that dome color, and we'll keep those knots toward the inside of the toy. Just a double knot, plain old simple, nothing crazy. And then now we can slip stitch to join, working with our second color, and we'll chain 1. Now for each stitch around, we're going to be working an increase. So we're going in and we're doing 2 single crochets into each one of those stitches. At the end of this round, we will end up with 36 stitches across the top. So again, we're just going in, wrap, pull up, wrap, pull through both, and then right back into that same spot, same thing. So keep going all the way until you are back at the beginning. We'll slip stitch to join, we will chain 1, and then I'll talk you through the next one. Next one's going to be a little bit different. Round 6 is another increase round. This one will be a little bit different. We've got a repeat of 1 single crochet followed by 2 in the next stitch, so that increase stitch in the next one. This will repeat 17 times and it's going to leave you with an odd number. So at the very end, you'll have just a plain single crochet. So we're going around, we're doing 1, and then we're doing an increase. That repeats all the way until that very last stitch where you'll just place 1 plain single crochet into it, and then you'll slip stitch to join, and we'll be ready for our next round. So keep going. Keep doing that repeat until you are out of stitches, and then just put that 1 single crochet there, slip stitch to join, chain 1, and we will come back together for our next round. Okay, we are ready for the next round. Next one is a plain round. We are working a single crochet into each stitch. You should have 52 stitches across the top. It's not the end of the world if your stitch count isn't exactly right, but if you are right at 52, when we put our lights in, they'll all be perfectly evenly spaced. So if that is something that you care about, maybe give them a count. Otherwise, you know, close enough is fine too. I don't think your cat's going to care. Unless you have one of those really judgmental cats that's like super good at math, then they might. Either way, we'll finish this off, we'll slip stitch to join, we'll chain 1, and then I will meet you back for our next round where we get to put the lights in. We're working on round 8 here. This is where our toy is going to start to shift to the other side. This is where we add our lights. We are going to be working single crochets into the back loops only. So you see the front loop and then the back loop. We're only going to go through the back loop and just work a plain single crochet, and 1 more here. When we get to the third one, you can see I already tied my yellow on there. We're going to go in, we're going to wrap, pull up, but before we finish that stitch, you're going to go ahead and tie your light color on. You want your knots to be on the inside, just kind of double knotting, and we're going to finish with the yellow here. So you can see that pulls that stitch over. So now the yellow is part of the 4th stitch. So we're going in, we're going to wrap, pull up, and then, oh gosh, sorry, back loop only, wrap, pull up, and then grabbing that gray yarn, switching colors again. And you're doing that all the way around. So every 4th stitch will be yellow. So back loops only for the first 3, working all back loops only all the way around. But when you get to that 3rd one, we pull up and then we finish with the yellow to make that part of the 4th stitch. And again, back loop only, wrap, pull up, and then we switch back. So you're going to keep doing that all the way around. You should end with a yellow stitch if you're at the right stitch count. Don't worry if you're not, they'll still be fine. And we'll slip stitch to join when we get to the end. And then we will chain 1, and we'll be ready for our next round. So I will meet you there. We are at the end of round 8 here. Just kind of backtracking a little bit because I forgot to tell you one thing. Before we finish that last stitch and slip stitch to join, we are not going to be using any more of the light color, so you can snip it away and just tie it to the inside of your saucer color. You can just kind of leave it in there and you get a little peek of what the inside looks like, and we will finish that stitch. And so now we can slip stitch to join chain 1, and we are on to round 9, which is going to be decreases all the way around. So we are going to work 2 stitches together all the way until the end. That's going to leave us with 26 stitches at the end. So to decrease, if you've got a different way you like to decrease, you absolutely can. I'm going to show you how I do it. I'm going to go through the front loops only of our first 2 stitches. You already knew where the back loops were. We're going through the front loop. We're going to take 2 of them together and wrap our yarn, pull through both of those, and now it looks just like a plain old single crochet. We'll wrap and pull through those 2 as well. I'll show you one more time. So we're going in the front loops of the next 2 stitches. You can see a little easier there that those are the front loops. Wrap, pull up, wrap, pull through 2, and you're going to keep going. You can see that starts to kind of level off that next section of our saucer, and when we get to the end, we'll meet back up. Round 9 is done. Round 10 is ours for the taking. We are going to do another decrease round. We have a single crochet in that very first stitch, and then our next one will be another decrease. So you're going through those 2 front loops of the next 2 stitches, or working them together, or however you like to decrease if that doesn't work for you for whatever reason. And we're going to repeat that pattern all the way around. When you get to the end, you'll have an odd number, just like we did with our increase round. You should have, I believe it's 2 plain single crochet left at the end, and you're just going to work them as single crochet. That will leave you with 18 stitches, and then we'll be ready for our next step. So keep going, 1 and then working 2 together over and over until you just have 2 left, then just 2 plain single crochets. Okay, we've got a couple little extra steps before our next crochet round. We have finished that round there, but we have not slip stitched to join. We want a little bit of a long tail here. Nothing crazy. You don't want to have to be lifting that thread through to your neighbor's house or anything, but we do want it to be a bit long. And now we are going to take that blue yarn that we left attached so we could work with it later. We're going to bring it over, just tucking all the tails out of the way. You're kind of flattening the saucer part out here, and now that gray tail is just going to tie around there, trying to keep the knots toward the inside of our toy. And we're just going to double knot it again, a little safer from kitty cat friends if that's who you're giving this to. And we will slip stitch with the blue, but before we go anywhere else, we're just going to kind of leave that on there. You can even chain 1 so you don't lose your slip stitch if you want to. That's just going to stay off to the side. All those tails that are in there, if you want to, you can tuck them around on the insides of your saucer part of your spacecraft here. And then they will just end up trapped in there. You don't have to worry about weaving them into anything later. Just making sure they're all going in a direction where it makes sense that they will just stay in there. And now we're going to take that long gray tail and we are going to get our yarn needle and thread that on there. Yarn needle is threaded onto that tail. We could take our hook off just to the side for now, just being careful not to pull that out. And even if you do, it's not the end of the world. You can always just rework it. We are going to take the tail and we're going to go through both of those stitches and out through the back, right where our increase was. So you see that little V, we're just kind of shooting for the bottom of that. And making sure all that's not getting caught in it. After you're past this one, it's not as Doesn't matter as much. So now we're going through the bottom of the next little V, and that should take us roughly through the top of the next stitch. So we're just working our way front and back through the beginning and the end and the beginning of the saucer bits. So you're going back again through the next stitch of where that saucer is, shooting for the bottom of that V. And you're going to keep going all the way around until that whole thing is sewn down, and that's going to keep that flat. It's going to keep it, you know, hovering out there. And when we get to the end, we'll tie it off, and then we're going to work the other half of the dome. Okay, I've got mine all sewn down. Hopefully you do too. You can see the pretty camouflage. You can't actually see the stitches really from either side. I did go ahead and do one extra over just so I can tie off on this side. That way your knot doesn't interfere with anything we're doing on the end. We're still working. Just gonna grab kind of anywhere where I can just grab one piece of yarn, and gonna give that a knot. And then just like we did with the other tails, I'm gonna work it through our saucer. So I'm just sending my needle through there, and wherever it comes out, it's fine with me. I'm just trying to get it far enough away that you keep a little bit of that tail on there, not too much. And then a little bit of tension so that when we snip the remaining tail off, the rest just pops right back into the toy and disappears. So now we're ready to work the last part. It's going to be the dome. So you're going to grab your hook again. Okay, we've put our hook back through our chain, our one chain there. And now we're working into that gray, grabbing that first stitch, and we're going to work a single crochet, and we're going to do that all the way around. Just being careful to get in there. You might find that you can only grab the front loop. That's okay, as long as you get something. You might be able to get through both, but either way, it depends on how tight you made those stitches for your saucer. So whatever you need, as long as you're getting at least that front loop, that's good. We'll keep working all the way around. When you get to the end, you should have 18 stitches. You'll slip stitch to join, and then around 12 will be just another plain single crochet. It'll be a little easier because you won't have to dig into where we kind of sewn through. So keep going, finish this one, and then work on the next one, slip stitch at the end of each, chain one, and we'll meet back for round 13. Okay, rounds 11 and 12 are done. Round 13 is going to be a decrease round. We're going to be repeating a pattern of one single crochet and one single crochet decrease. That's going to go all the way to the end. When we get to the end of round 13, you should have 12 stitches left. So again, it's just one single crochet, and then working those next two together to decrease. And once you get to the end, we'll slip stitch to join, we'll chain one, and we'll meet back up for our last little bit. Okay, we only have one more round to go, but before we get there, we're going to add our stuffing and catnip if you'd like. If you're going to put catnip in there, I recommend doing that first and then your stuffing, so that way none of it falls out as you're adding in extra stuff. The blue part is going to be the only part that gets stuffing in it. Since we sewed this off, that's going to stay flat, and the rest will start to get a little rounder and rounder, like a little ball. So you go ahead and put in whatever you want, some catnip or not, and then your stuffing. We're going to fill your stuffing up as much as you can without it spilling over, so it doesn't get in your way on that last round. Okay, stuffing is stuffed. You can see now how that kind of turns it into a little ball with just the saucer ring around it. And for our last round, we've got one last decrease round. We are going to be working single crochet two together for every little bit around. So we're decreasing, we're working 2 stitches into one all the way until the end. When you get to the end, we are going to slip stitch to join, but we don't need to chain one because we will be snipping that tail and using the end of our yarn to weave the tops of this last round closed. So we're just trying to keep our stuffing out of the way. It can be a little tricky. And once we get there, we can just double check, make sure nothing's sticking up, pushing anything back in there that needs it. And we will, again, we're going to slip stitch right into that very first one. So you ended with 6 stitches across the top. And now that we've done that slip stitch, we're keeping like a medium length tail. We're just going to cut that off. And now we're going to use that tail to make our knot here. So we're wrapping our yarn over a hook, pulling it through that last loop. And we're going to pull that nice and tight. So now you can see we got a little opening there and we need to close that. So we're going to take our yarn needle, thread our tail on there, and we're going to use our tail to close it up. So we're going into the first stitch, out through the next with our needle, and we'll pull the tail through there. We're going to do that again 2 more times until we're all the way back on the other side of that round. And then once you're there, we're going to pull on our tail, and that will close up that hole. And make that as tight as we can, and then going in kind of right where our slip stitch was. I find that to be the best spot. We'll put the needle through there, and then that little loop that comes up, we're going to go through just to make a simple knot, and we're going to pull that knot as tight as we can. On whichever direction that knot lays the flattest, we're going to send our yarn needle through there, and that's just going to tuck our tail to the inside of the toy, putting a little bit of tension on there. So when we snip, it disappears right back in there, and we don't have to worry about weaving anything in. So there it is. There you have it, your little flying saucer. And we're all done. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Bye.